my channel. I hope you're all well, and if you're new here, I'm Jo. I do craft videos as well as Poundland hauls, charity shop finds and any other bits and bobs that I like to share with you. For today's video, I've got my book review of what I read in the month of May. I read 5 books in total, and I'm just going to basically read the back of the book so you know what the story is about, give my general opinion of what I thought, and I won't let anybody know any major plot twists or the endings of books, just in case you want to read them yourself. So yeah, we'll get straight into it. So the first book that I read was The Key to It All by Joanna Rees, and I picked this up in Poundland, and the book says, when 5 random people simultaneously receive the key, they don't realise that their lives are about to change forever. Shrouded in secrecy, the mysterious key is delivered to each of them along with a code, a web address, and a promise that, if used wisely, it can unlock a door to luxury and privilege beyond their wildest dreams. However, as each of them begins to use the key, they are propelled into a world of hazy moral choices and soon start to question their gift. Who is funding the key's lavish promises, and why have they been chosen to receive it? Only the bravest will use it to seek the truth. So like I said, I picked this up in Poundland. I read the back and I thought it sounded quite good and quite interesting, and I wasn't disappointed in it. It was a good read. It got a little bit crazy towards the end. It was a little bit over the top, but it was a really interesting concept. I mean, these 5 people received this key, which turns out to be a USB pen. And once they pop it in the computer, you have to fill in an online questionnaire about yourself, and then you can ask for anything that you want, anything that you desire. It's not like a magic lamp where you only get 3 wishes. There's no limit to what you can ask for and how many times you can ask for something. So it was quite interesting, and it made me think, if I had that, what I would do. And I think I would do what most people would be to ask for a lot of money. I would ask for a considerable amount. I would make sure that all my friends and family and anybody that I knew would never have to worry about money ever again. And then I'd also donate a lot of it to a lot of charities. I'd like to help out as many people as I possibly could. So that's what I would do, but it'd be interesting to know what you would do if you received a key and you could have anything that you wanted, no limit, and what you would wish for. So yeah, the concept was really interesting. Like I said, there are 5 people and each of them are completely different, what they ask for and what they're like in life. One of the people, Kim or Cam, depending on how you want to shorten it, I think she's from Korea. I can't 100% remember exactly where she's from, but she's a little bit mad. Yeah, she's a little bit mad, and she gets worse and worse and worse as it goes through the book, and it was quite interesting to see how it ended and how they are connected and what the reason was why they got the key in the first place. But yeah, an enjoyable read. It's not going to win any awards, but I actually found it quite interesting, and if you like the idea of this, or it's something that you would normally read, I think you would quite enjoy this. So yeah, The Key to It All by Joanna Rees, and yeah, I would recommend it. If I was going to give it out of 5 stars, I would probably give it a 3. Something to read over summer and enjoy, and I read it in a few nights. I couldn't put it down. I wanted to see how it ended. So yeah, quite an interesting book, and I would recommend giving it a go. The next book that I picked up was Tess Simpson, and it is The Lying Game, and I'll read the back. Harriet Lockwood has never really bonded with her daughter Florence the way she has with her 3 sons. Then one day she discovers why the girl she raised for the last 15 years is not her biological child. Zoe Sands is a single mother with a chaotic lifestyle. The one constant in her life is her daughter, Nell. Nothing can ever come between them, can it? When Harriet turns up on Zoe's doorstep demanding to see her biological daughter, the 2 families are plunged into a storm of bitter rivalries and unexpected alliances. So I've read a Tess Simpson book before, and it was The Infidelity Chain, and I absolutely loved it. It was really good. I highly recommended it, and I couldn't put it down. It was the first Tess Simpson book that I'd ever read, and then when I saw this one in Poundland also, I picked it up straight away. When I started to read this, I hadn't read the back. I wanted to read it and just see what happened. I didn't want to know what it was about. But to be honest with you, I kind of guessed as I was in the first couple of chapters. It turns out that obviously the two women have daughters of the same age. And it turns out that after 15 years, they are not their biological daughters. They were switched at birth in the hospital, and that's basically where the story starts and continues all the way through, and how they get on with obviously finding out that information. So I guessed that, and like I said, I hadn't read the back. It was quite interesting. It wasn't as good as the Infidelity Chain. I really liked the Infidelity Chain. It was interesting enough, but I started to get a little bit bored towards the end. I think it was just because of some of the characters. I mean, Harriet and Zoe, the two mothers, are completely different, have both different styles of parenting. Harriet is quite well off and is all about their children being better as adults, and Zoe's more down to earth, and she's quite happy for her daughter to just be who she is. And yeah, between the two of them, I would probably prefer to be the daughter of Zoe instead of Harriet, but it does get quite interesting towards the end. But like I said, I kind of did start to get a little bit bored. So would I recommend it? Yes, I would. I'd probably give it a 2 stars out of 5. If I was going to recommend any book to you by Tess Simpson that I've read up to now, I would highly recommend The Infidelity Chain. And when I've looked at some reviews of some of the books in the past, it seems to me, or it seems from what people have wrote, that The Infidelity Chain is quite different to what she normally writes about. So I don't know if the rest of her books are more like this one. But from what I've read online, it looks like The Infidelity Chain is a bit of a standalone kind of thing that she wrote. So yeah, I would highly recommend The Infidelity Chain over this, but it was all right. And if you're interested in it, it's worth a read. But it's not the favourite thing that I've read this month. So yeah, that was Tess Simpson's The Lying Game. The next book is by Velvet, and it is Seduction, and this is the second book out of a 4-book series, so I will read the back. Former part-time escort Mason manages the Black Door 2, a club catering to a much younger, sexually uninhibited clientele than the originally uptown elite Black Door Club. In a world where customers are always right, Mason makes sure that he fully accommodates all of the needs and cravings. But controlling his passion-starved spirit long enough to focus on his new leadership role is tough, especially when he's on the search for romance. Will he be able to resist temptation in order to win the heart of one woman he loves, or will secrets and scandal come knocking on his door one steamy night? So, like I said, this is the second book out of 4 books. I read the first book in my first book review that I did, which I think was March. And I didn't like the first book. I thought the first book was awful. Now, this is the kind of stuff that I like to read. I do like erotic novels, especially fiction, erotic fiction. And yeah, this is my go-to kind of book that I would pick up. And like I said, I was completely and highly disappointed with the first one, and it made me not want to read the rest of the books. But I'm one of them people that if I start something, I need to finish it just to know how it ends. And I'm actually glad that I decided to read the second one, because the second one is so much better than the first one. Yeah, I really didn't like the first one. I didn't like the characters. I couldn't relate to them. I thought they were quite annoying, but the second one was actually quite good. Now, it does follow on from the first one, but the characters that are in the first one are hardly in this book. Mason was only in the first book briefly, and this is more about him. So I was more interested in this. There are some new characters that were in it, especially Miss Benson, who is an heiress to a tobacco fortune. She's one of the most eligible single ladies in America. And yeah, she was really nice, and a crazy best friend who's fame hungry and just wants all the attention. And then obviously Mason as well. We got to find out a little bit more about him. Yeah, it was quite interesting. I actually really enjoyed it. And then obviously towards the end it set it up for the third book, which I think is more about the people that were in the first book, so I'm not too sure how much I'm going to enjoy that, but I will continue to read them. If I was going to give it anything out of 5, I'd probably give this a 3. I think I gave the first one a 1. So there was a massive difference between the two, and I'm looking forward to reading the third and fourth one to see how it all finishes. But yeah, I was actually pleasantly surprised at how much better this one was, and I'm glad that I did actually continue to read it. So yeah, that is the second book, Seduction by Velvet, and I've got the other 2 to finish off at some point in the near future. The next book is Tigers in Red Weather by Lisa Kelserman. I think that's how you pronounce the name. I'm sorry if that's wrong. And this was one of the Sunday Times top 10 bestsellers, and that was the reason that I picked it up. Again, I picked this up in Poundland quite a while ago, and I read the back of it and it sounded alright. I thought I would give it a go, so this is what the back says. Nick and her cousin Helena have grown up together, sharing long hot summers at Tiger House with husbands and children of their own. They keep returning, but against a background of parties, cocktails, moonlight and jazz, how long can perfection last? There is always the summer that changes everything. So like it says, it's about 2 cousins, Nick and Helena, and it starts off, let me just have a quick look, it starts off in the 1940s. It also covers the 1950s and the 1960s as well, so they're the 3 decades that the book is actually involved in. And obviously we're going back to a time where things were different, and it starts off with the 2 cousins at their home that they live in. They're just about to get married and separate and go and live their different lives in 2 different places in America, but they always have the Tiger House, which is where they go and spend summers. And yeah, it's quite interesting about how their lives are different but still intertwined. Each of the chapters are named by the person that they're talking about. So you have Nick, obviously, and Elena, and then I was going to say their husbands, but you don't. You only have one husband point of view, and then obviously some of the rest of the family as well. I was a little bit disappointed that what the other husband, you didn't get to see his point of view, because he was actually one of the most interesting characters and I really wanted to know his story. But you don't really find out much about him, and that's such a shame, because there's hints at a story there that would have been quite interesting, but you don't really get to find out much about it in depth. The 2 cousins are completely different. Nick, bless her, is a little bit OTT, and Helena I really feel sorry for, and if you read the book you'll understand why. It would be quite a nice summer read, and it was all right, to be honest. Not much happened. It seems to be around one summer. Obviously it says at the back there is always the summer that changes everything, and you get to see it from different point of views, but there really isn't that much that actually happens in the book. But I'd give it 3 out of 5 and maybe give it a read if you think it sounds interesting. So yeah, that was the 4th book that I read, and then we'll get on to the last one, which was of course my favourite book that I read this month, and that is Game of Thrones. Wow. Let me read the back. You probably know what this is about anyway. The first book of A Song of Fire and Ice. Summers span decades, winter can last a lifetime, and the struggle for the Iron Throne has begun. As Warden of the North, Lord Eddard Stark counts it a curse when King Robert bestows on him the office of the Hand. His honour weighs him down at court, where a true man does what he will, not what he must, and a dead enemy is a thing of beauty. The old gods have no power in the south. Stark's family is split and there is treachery at court. Worse, the vengeance-mad heir of the deposed Dragon King has grown to maturity in exile in the Free Cities. He claims the Iron Throne. Wow, so I finally read the first book, and there's so much in this. It took me forever to get through this. I felt like I was reading it for weeks. But I loved every single minute of it. Now, I am a huge fan of Game of Thrones. I loved the series, not season 8. We won't talk about season 8, but the first 7 seasons were really good. Season 8 was such a disappointment, and that's all I'm going to say. So I thought I would give the books a go, and I'm so glad that I picked it up. I've had this for ages, and I think when I first started reading it, I read maybe the first 10 or 12 pages and put it down. I just couldn't get into it. I was watching Game of Thrones when I started to read this, and I think because I was watching the series and I was quite late in the series starting to read the book at the first beginning, it wasn't gelling with me. So I finished the series obviously when it came out, and I thought it was time to pick this up. It is amazing. It's so much better than the series. Anybody who has these and haven't read them but enjoyed the series, you need to read the books. That is my honest opinion. They are so much better, and there's so many reasons why. Firstly, the description of the places are phenomenal. They don't do it justice in the series. Now, I have read the first book, which is the first series of the program, and I've rewatched the first series of the program once I finished reading the book, and yeah, the difference between the two is amazing. Like I said, the descriptions of the places are not brought to life properly in the show whatsoever. Also, I've never been so hungry reading a book before. There is so much talk of food in this, and every time I sat down and read it at night, I was absolutely starving. I made a few notes in my book. I have this next to me when I'm reading, so I can just make some notes, but I'm just going to read a couple of the descriptions of some of the food and let me know what you think, because honestly this makes me so hungry. So these are from different pieces in the book, but fat sausages sizzled on a spit over fire pits spring the air with a sense of garlic and pepper. And then also they had black bread and boiled goose eggs and fish filled with onions and bacon. That sounds amazing. And the last one is the 8 soon-to-be brothers feasted on a rack of lamb baked in a crust of garlic and herbs, garnished with sprigs of mint and surrounded by mashed yellow turnips swimming in butter. And that's just a few of them. There's loads of them throughout the book, and I was just like, oh, I want to eat all this. They talk about black bread as well quite often, and I'm not too sure what that is, but it does sound quite nice, especially with butter. They say that they smother it in butter. So yeah, I was really hungry reading it. But to go on about the book, there is a lot of stuff that happens in the book that doesn't happen in the show. Obviously, there is quite a lot in the first book. And there is only, is it 8 episodes, 7 episodes, 8 episodes in the series. So that covers the first book. And also you get to find out so many thoughts about what they're thinking. You don't get it in the show. So there'll be times when it's telling you what somebody's thinking and why they're thinking that and why they make a decision to do what they do. And they don't show that in the show. It's just completely different. So I love this. It was absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to pick the next one up. I'm not going to read the next one this month. I'm going to leave it a month. I'm going to read some other stuff that I've got in my to read pile. But yeah, highly recommend this. Probably one of my favourite things that I've ever read. And I can't wait to finish the rest of the books. And then I want to get the rest of George R. Martin's other books that he's done. But first I need to get through the rest of Game of Thrones. It is a big book. I'm not going to lie. I actually struggled to hold this in some parts, especially at the beginning in bed. It's so hard to hold. I ended up with it propped up, which wasn't ideal. I like to hold a book. So it is quite a big book. It is just under 800 pages. And like I said, it did take me a while to get through it. But wow, yeah, if you've not read the books but you love the show, I would highly recommend. I will give it 5 out of 5. It was phenomenal, and yeah, there's not much more I can say about it really, other than I absolutely loved it. And yeah, I can't wait to see how the other books differ from the series, and I'm sure it is going to be as good as this. So yeah, it just made me realise as well, reading it, how much I really dislike some of these people in this show. There's so many that are horrible, but it's really good, and I'm looking forward to reading the others. So yeah, that was the last thing that I read in the month of May. So I've already started my next book. I'm reading Jane Eyre and I'm loving it. It is a little bit hard to get into, obviously just because of the language. but I am enjoying it. I'm finding that I can only read a few chapters at a time. It's not something that I can sit down and read for like 4 or 5 hours in a sitting. I have to do maybe an hour and a half, and then I have to put it down. So it's taking me a while. I'm about halfway through, and yeah, I'm enjoying it. So that's what I'm reading at the moment. So I will be back with my next book review at the end of June. And yeah, I will be back on Thursday. I've got a busy day tomorrow, so I think I'm going to do a bit of a vlog, and that'll be up on Thursday. And then I'm going away to my sister's. I'm going away to my sister's for the weekend, and I'm going to vlog while I'm there, and I've got loads of videos that I want to film. So I'm going to be thrifting. I want to go in the works. Obviously, I'm going to film my actual days, and I think we're going to the car boot on a Sunday, so I'm going to film that as well. So yeah, I'm going to have loads of content next week. Really looking forward to it, and I hope that the weather's lovely and I can go out and enjoy it and spend some time with my family. So yeah, that's my plan for the weekend. So I will see you on Thursday. So till then, take care, enjoy the weather, enjoy your bank holiday Monday, and yeah, I will see you soon. Bye for now.